Hey, Jake, also make sure that you have your computer iPhone notifications turned off. Someone was bitching last time about your text going off.
Someone was bitching about my text going off?
Yeah, they sent me a message after it and said, turn your phone off.
Well, that wasn't me because my phone is literally always on silent. So
I think it was your computer. Does your computer, does your notifications go ding, ding? Oh.
Dude, there was a CNN news anchor that they were interviewing a doctor, and the doctor's phone literally kept going off every like 5 minutes, or probably every like 30 seconds during the interview. I was like, what? Like, turn your notifications off or do something else. This is ridiculous.
I feel like you shouldn't have to tell people to do that, but sometimes you do.
Yeah.
I remember on one of our first podcasts that we recorded, I think it was like our second or third one. Remember, Jake, I took out my phone to take an Instagram story, and then it started playing back, and then like Instagram glitched out. It kept playing back the audio. Yeah, in the middle of us recording. I was like, fuck. That's what I get for pulling out my phone. Are we live now, Jake?
Yeah, we're live now. So if you guys are tuning in, we'll wait a couple minutes to kind of get right into it because we're 5 minutes early before we scheduled it. But
I don't even know if I didn't post that we were going live, so hopefully people see it.
Yeah, I posted it on LinkedIn a little bit earlier.
Yeah,
share it out. So if you guys want to take a couple minutes, share it with some people. Let's get some people on here. It's on YouTube and on the Facebook channel.
Hold on, I'm gonna post on Twitter real quick.
Watch out for those 65-year-old consultants.
Dude, I'm telling you.
Dude, that was so funny.
I don't know what the fuck's wrong with these guys, man. It's been like that for like 3 years. Every time someone talks shit to me on LinkedIn, sure as shit, 65-year-old completions consultant. And there's a direct correlation between people that talk shit to me on LinkedIn and if their job employment status in their bio says seeking new opportunities, like 100% correlation. Anyone that talks shit's also looking for a job. So it seems like counterintuitive approach that they're taking.
Man.
Hey, Ryan, looking at getting a poker game started tomorrow night for Energy FinTwit. So I need to talk to you about that.
Let's do it. Of course, the downturn, I have expanded into new horizons, and my old card hustling days from my college days have come back. No, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm not really that good at poker. I just like talking shit to people, and
that's half the fun.
Playing my hand.
The Phil Negreanu of Energy FinTwit.
What's that?
Poker League. The Phil Negreanu of Energy FinTwit poker leagues. Like he talks so much shit at the table. It's funny.
That'd be me 100%. Except I can't back up. I can't back up my trash talk at the poker table.
I watched the video you guys had earlier today about the SBA and PPP loans. It was pretty good. The live stream. There's a lot of people that are going to have to start applying for those.
Yeah, I got to go back and watch that recording because I don't know shit about this stimulus plan and what's going on. Dude, there's Yusuf. What's up, dude?
He's in. He's live.
Man, this is.
Yusuf,
do you have a mic on?
Oh, we can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
I can read lips though.
He just needs to sync his earpods to his computer.
Yeah.
While Yusuf is figuring that out, let's just take a quick message from our sponsor.
Oh, we got
Chili's baby back ribs. Chili's baby back ribs.
Barbecue sauce.
Chili's baby back ribs. Chili's baby back ribs. barbecue sauce.
I guess we're just gonna keep playing
awesome.
that sponsor.
Beautiful.
Okay, hold on.
Beautiful.
I'm sitting here hustling on social media. I forgot to tell everyone that we're gonna be in here. I done fucked up. May just be us shooting the shit. Yusuf, did you get it set up, dude?
Still can't hear you. Here, just take your thing out. Just use your computer microphone. See if that works.
You'd hear Yusuf's loud ass if his microphone was working. Hey, Yusuf, leave and come back.
That just goes to show you that operators are not very good with tech.
Boom, mic drop.
Yeah, we're not very good with tech. So, anyways, let's introduce everyone that we got on the show. Obviously, yours truly, Colin, Jake. Got Ryan Nuckolls with Pump Jack Power, and got Robert Smith with Donovan Ventures. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Thanks for having us, guys.
Hey, man. Just trying to make it out in these crazy times. Figured it'd be good to have you guys on, shoot the shit, see what's going on.
There's a lot of shoot the shit, man.
Yeah,
it has been a hell of a 3 weeks in the oil business.
Man, did y'all see Trump's tweets today? Okay.
Yeah.
Rob, you probably saw him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this dude goes on Twitter and starts tweeting about he talked to I don't remember if he said he talked to Saudi Arabia and said that he's going to get a 10 million barrel per month. Is it per month?
He didn't say what
per day.
Period. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He said 10 million.
Pretty sure he just pulled the number out of thin air anyway, so it's irrelevant. And then I think it was Putin came back and said no, didn't talk to anyone about shit. And so Twitter's been on fire today. Oil started booming, trading up on that news. So it's actually pretty wild. Like, Rob, I know you've been spending a lot of time looking at some correlations between now and the 80s, but one thing that the 80s didn't have Twitter. It didn't have social media. You didn't have a president tweeting and just kind of talking about some bullshit numbers. And I mean, that affects markets drastically, right? I mean, this president can get on
information.
Yeah, he can get on Twitter and just tweet whatever he wants. So it's kind of interesting to see how that impacts today's market. And you didn't have that back in the day.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Still can't hear you, Yusuf. Oh, man. We'll get you next time, dude.
I hit it on his phone.
He's still talking. We still can't.
We don't know what. We don't have a word to say.
You need to get one of those closed caption people to start typing stuff out for you.
Sign language.
Man, sometimes technology, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Last week, we had Alan Gilmer and David Ramsdenwood on, and the show went off without a problem, and I was actually kind of surprised by that.
But Alan's the OG of tech in oil and gas, so
yeah,
I guess he's got some savviness under him.
Have you ever talked to Alan?
Only on the phone, not in person though.
He's a good dude. I like him. What's cool about Alan is he's like, tech founder, but you can very much tell that he was like oil field hand, and still very like just kind of like country boy type, and it makes for an interesting combination.
He's got a little bit of artsy side to him. I think he produced a Quentin Tarantino documentary that was actually really cool that premiered during South by. So shout out to Alan for that. I'm a Quentin Tarantino fan myself.
Oh yeah, I saw that on Twitter the other day. He was posting that he was in Hollywood for some premiere of a movie that they produced. So I need to talk to him about that. I want to make some movies.
I just want to know who's going to star in the oil price war of 2020 movie. We're gonna have Tom Hanks storming the beaches of D-Day.
Dude, that video is awesome though.
Man, it's so funny. Like everyone's coming up like, I sent that to 5 people, and I had 5 people send it to me. I think we're between us and Liquidity, it's almost at 200,000 views. So it's pretty funny seeing something go that viral. But like, look, there could be a movie that comes out of what's happening in oil. I think 6 CEOs for E&Ps are going to the White House tomorrow.
This is, the turning point that we are today in American energy history is the next 30 to 90 days will depict the next 30 to 40, maybe even 50 years of energy policy in America.
Possible.
I was chatting with a client today, and we were kind of just bullshitting with each other, and I just kind of flat out kind of asked him, I was like, man, I feel like if we had to compare this situation that we're in outside of coronavirus and all that stuff, is as the oil and gas community, like what world event could you even compare it to? And I really feel it's like the Cuban Missile Crisis. Like if the oil and gas community had a doomsday clock, I'm not trying to incite fear in anyone that the world's collapsing. A little bit is, but it's really getting to that point. And these drastic moves, these behind the door meetings of trying to keep everything afloat is it's really day by day history is being written. And I just hope that we have the right leaders in place that are keeping operators like Yusuf and independents and majors, everyone at heart, because we've got to bring it home, and we've got to become our own kind of energy island.
Yeah.
So
hey, Yusuf, we can hear you now, by the way, bro.
Oh, okay. All right. So I shouldn't
Big dog's
say
in.
that Ryan's full of shit.
No, 60-40. 60-40.
So if anyone doesn't know Yusuf's been on our podcast before. President, right? That's your job title?
Executive Vice President. I'm not there yet, Colin.
Executive Vice President of Atlas Operating. So good to have you on, Yusuf.
Thank you, Colin.
So, Ryan, on your point, man, Jake and I were talking to someone the other day, well-known oil and gas executive, been around the block, was operating companies during the 80s. And Jake asked him, he's like, does this look like the 80s? And his response was, this is a lot fucking worse. And Jake's like, what'd you guys do to get through the 80s? How'd you make it through? He's like, we didn't. It sucked fucking dick for 10 years. And you hear that, and it's like, damn, that we're going to be in pain for a while. So I agree with your statement. It's like the next 30, 60, 90 days are pretty pivotal time for the next decade.
I want to put a little stat in your ear that a lot of people don't talk about. That 1980, everyone's got this like 1980 number in their head. Like, oh, let's compare this to the 80s. You go back to 1973 when we decided to start buying crude oil from the Middle East and pouring it back into this country. Fine. Are we at a point where this is going to be an extended period of time or in low oil prices? I don't think so. But this is going to depict who is going to start controlling the price. And you have all these independent producers in America that have no price certainty. And how are we going to fix it? In my personal opinion, go ahead.
I was going to say today we came up with a new oil cartel for America called BroPick. So we're going to be watching
Yusuf the leader.
Yeah,
Yusuf is the leader.
Yusuf's the leader of BroPick.
I'll take it. I'll be the leader of BroPack.
Colin, who's going to be in your bro pack? I like this.
I don't know, man. We may have to come up with some type of organizational structure for BroPick. I literally we came up with the idea like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
And the extent of the conversation was like, hey, we should create hats that say BroPick. So
yeah, get Scott Sheffield to wear it when he talks to the president. He would put on that BroPick hat. Good talking to Trump.
Like the ultimate goal is to get Trump in a BroPick hat. Let's see if we can make it happen. So,
have y'all seen those?
I bet you I could do it.
Let's do it, man.
Heck yeah.
Rob, so you're actually writing a pretty dope blog post that's going to go out on Wildcatters talking about the correlation between deal flow on oil and gas assets between the 2014 and 16 crash and between what we're seeing now. And this is actually be a good talking point both for you and Yusuf, because Yusuf's the king of deals over here, right? So, what are you seeing so far in your research?
Yeah, when you just look back at, so what we were trying to figure out is everything's correlated to the price of oil in our industry. And so figuring out what are the leading indicators that can really help us understand going forward, whenever the market does turn, what's going to come back and what's going to come back first. And when you look back, with the work that we did was looking at year-over-year rate of change of the price of oil versus deal count. And from I think I did all the way back to 2008 to 2017, the second half roughly, there was roughly an 80% correlation between crude oil prices were accelerating, deal flow started accelerating. And then in 2017, what you saw was this period from then to today where it's really been a complete different regime. It's roughly a negative 25% correlation. So in our research, what we think is really driving that is obviously all the investors that have either left the space or the capital flight that's gone from the space has said, we want you guys to be able to figure out how to make money before we come back into this space and actually underwrite new deals or underwrite, companies, revolvers, et cetera. And there's no telling what the impacts of, one, COVID-19, but then two, the price war between Saudi and Russia are going to have on the market. Kind of to Ryan's point, this is definitely a extremely pivotal time going forward. So it's unprecedented is probably the word that everyone's heard more times than they would care to, but it truly is an unprecedented time.
Robert, let me ask you a question. My biggest fear, all right, let's say we roll into the summer, virus is starting to maybe topple off a little bit, people are starting to get back outside, but what's the delay in consumer behaviorism that gets us back to form normalcy? Will we get back to that form normalcy in the short term? That's really my biggest fear on the demand side of oil and how it's going to impact.
Yeah, no, a lot of people are predicting that V-shaped recovery where you're dropping off 10 to 15 million barrels a day of demand, and then it'll pop back up in the third quarter to say 6 or 7 million barrels a day versus 2019. But all the data is starting to point towards more of either a U-shaped or a W-shaped recovery where there's a near-term kind of spike, but then it's a trough. Because a lot of the stuff that's happening in the credit markets for consumers, I was reading a piece today where the guy was like, the guy that just got laid off that has, one, a mortgage he has to pay, he has credit card bills he has to pay, he has truck notes he has to pay. He's not going to go out and look at buying that new truck or go out and book the new vacation. It's going to take a long time for that stuff to come back. There's ripple waves that are going out, but we just really don't know what that impact is. So it's likely going to be a longer recovery than most people are assuming. But on the other hand, though, you have the Fed that's basically willing to do whatever it takes to pump as much money as possible into the market to put a floor in the demand. So it's going to be a very interesting time, to say the least.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. When you talk about like the stimulus bill, I don't know if it's going out or not. I saw someone post a screenshot of their $1,200 deposit. You guys know how they started being distributed?
The individual checks?
Yusuf, you ain't getting shit, dude.
I want to get shit, but I'm not getting shit yet.
$1,200.
I think Steve Mnuchin said today that they're trying to send them out in the next 2 weeks, which seems really fast because the government moves so slow. But I don't know.
Yeah, and they're sending it to your bank account that you filed on your last tax return. That's basically how they're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that's used and deployed by Americans. But I mean, like you look at it, $10 million people on unemployment as of this week. Kind of going back to your point of how long does it take to actually recover and get back to that point of demand, everyone's going to have to play catch up. And I mean, it's going to take months, maybe years for people to get back to that point.
Yeah.
Yusuf, how's this? I mean, we've talked a little bit offline about how this has affected you guys, but do you want to kind of shed some light on, how it's affected, the E&P market?
Yeah, so absolutely, man. How's it affected us? So we've had to unfortunately make the I should call it drastic decision to let go of some of the non-essential personnel for the time being. And you know what? I'm kind of with Robert on this one. I didn't hear what Ryan had to say, but I think this is going to be a lot longer than a lot of people think. I don't think it's going to recover by the summertime. I think by August we're going to get a normalization of $30 by the WTI, and I think for us, you know, for the next 2 to 3 months, we're going to be happy to get $30 of oil. I think it's going to be a rough couple of years for everybody in the oil and gas industry, and I think everybody that's liquid is going to be really happy. And I've told a lot of people this, by the end of the year, and I'm gonna make a Colin type of prediction here. I'm gonna say something so bold that everybody's gonna be like, "What the fuck did you just say?" I'm gonna say something like that. By the end of the year, 20 to 30% of the industry is gonna be gone. I don't think a lot of people are gonna survive. I know a lot of people personally that have been hurt, that have been hit. A lot of operators that are smaller, between the $5 to $15 million region, that are just saying that, listen, either their private equity or their financial backers are just they're not gonna back them anymore. So they have to get rid of their assets, and a lot of the private equity guys or the financial advisors just have to take a hit. So now you have the financial advisors who are saying that, listen, we had a $100 million portfolio that they were beating their fucking chest about a year ago and being like, oh, we done this. That portfolio is gone, and now that space is gone for them as well. They're not going to be doing oil and gas anymore. They're scared of oil and gas, right? And now you have the operator who actually knows about oil and gas, and he's been so fatigued by the market, he's never coming back to oil and gas, because either he's first or second generation oil and gas that's just never going to do this again, or he doesn't have somebody in place or he doesn't have a company in place to actually maintain it. And now, the industry is going to get hit by it, right? And I want to say hit by it because a lot of the shale producers, they're going to be gone by the, I don't want to say by the end of the year. They're already gone, right? It's been 3 weeks. Everybody's been hit over the head with a hammer. There's no shale producers right now. I want to know the rig count right now. If you ask anybody what the rig count is, they won't tell you what it is because nobody knows what it is. So I think everything is going to change within the next, 3 to 4 months. It's going to change for the worse. And I think it's going to change for the better for a lot of people who have the appetite to kind of survive this. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who have that appetite.
What do you think, if for like you guys, what do you think? So say we have a $30 price environment for the next 2 years. Is that something that's sustainable with like your businesses and other E&Ps that are around the same size, as long as you're not taking on too much debt?
You know what? I would say that it is semi-sustainable for companies of our size, the less than $500 million companies. I think that it is 100% sustainable if they want it to be, right? There's nothing worse in the world. I don't know any executive, unless they don't have a fucking heart in them, to let go of 60% of your staff. I don't know anybody. I'm a cold-hearted little bitch sometimes, but there's nothing harder than telling somebody that, listen, we can't use you for the next 3 months at minimum, right? Like, hey, if you can get another job, go for it. I know these guys that I've worked with personally on deals. They've led me to great success and put me in a great position. These guys are working at Walmart right now, right? These guys are working. They're young guys that are trying to find ways to fill their positions or fill their roles. What are they supposed to do? They're trying to make rent. They're trying to pay for their mortgages. They have families that they just started. What are they supposed to do, right? I'm in a position where I go home and cry in my corner, but at the end of the day, there's people who are literally hurt by this industry, and a lot of these smaller oil and gas operators, they will not survive this, right? No matter how much they want to, no matter how much they think they can, they're just not going to be able to survive this. So for a lot of companies to be able to survive this for more than, I want to say, 12 months to 24 months at max, it's not in the books right now, Jake. It's really
you have to shut wells in. I mean, it's like, do you keep producing wells at a loss, or do you just shut your wells in and ride it out? You know, it's
that's
tough.
The truth, man. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, what are you supposed to do? You have two decisions. You know, Yusuf, I would chat a little bit about, you kind of led into this a little bit, but the cost difference between horizontal and conventional. Obviously, Atlas, majority of your asset base is conventional. Chat a little bit about your conventional asset base and the advantages that you get through, with a suppressed price regime.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. So, the price differences, I don't think people really understand the differences between a conventional asset and a unconventional asset. So conventional is a asset that's been producing, just, a quick history. A conventional asset, it's been producing for a long time. It's, you got good production out of it. I would say it's anything below 7,000 to 8,000 feet. I don't even know if that's a good way to kind of put it, because there's a lot of wells that we've actually drilled ourselves that are below that. But anything that's a vertical well bore over the past 50 years, I would say, that's produced, that's conventional. Anything over the past 20 years that's been produced that has that's got a lateral formation of a horizontal play behind it, that well will cost you probably, I would say, 6 to 7 times more than a conventional regular oil well. So let's just say you just bought a bunch of oil wells that are just Wolfcamp wells, right? It's sexy, everybody likes it. It's Wolfcamp. It's in, let's just say, Upton County, Texas. Everybody knows about it. You could go buy that well right now for a 6 or 7 time multiple right now, and you have that well, and it makes you so much money. Right now, you're not making any money out of that well, because the operating expenses, the cost of putting the facility together. Where are you going to put the oil? You got to put tanks there, right? You got to have pipelines that get to that. You got to make sure, because the railroad commission is going to be watching you. You have to make sure that everything's in order. The roads are paved. There's so much that kind of goes behind that really kind of an operator behind a $1 billion mark, they can't afford that, right? They really truly can't afford that. However, a conventional asset that's just producing, it's been producing, you got a 4 to 5% decline on it. You can produce that for fucking years, man. That's the truth of the matter. You can literally produce it for years. Even right now, my OpEx on a conventional asset, you can call it maybe 15 to 20 bucks. Exactly what we're making right now with the differentials that we're getting with the WTI and with the purchasers. That's kind of it's a weird world we're living in, but the conventional assets I think are going to start making a comeback.
And the reason you're absolutely right. And the reason why I bring that point up, my stepdad, he mentored, kind of brought me in the industry. Waylon, obviously, Colin, you and Jake have met him. When everything first kind of fallen down, I was just trying, I'm like, Waylon, what do you think prices are going to do? Like, where do you think this is really going to go? And he looked at me and said, Ryan, when I got into business in 1988, I was selling oil deals at $10, $15, and $20 oil, but all conventional assets could sustain that price. It's going to be, in the long haul, it's about how are we going to allocate capital during this downturn? How are we going to manage? How are we going to support each other? And I think that's really why I've been so drawn to Digital Wildcatters, to kind of give you guys a little pat on your back, is because having honest and open conversations like this is what's really going to propel this industry forward, because it's hard having these conversations. You can't have these conversations sitting around an office where everyone's freaking out, stressed out, and worrying about how they're going to pay a mortgage. It takes a medium like this to have conversations to drive action. So cheers to everybody for that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I see some good questions over here. Let's start taking them. First, Justin said that a lot of people are spending their time and money on Pornhub, believe it or not. So
that's me. That's me. I've done that.
Hey, look, all these girls on Instagram putting up their OnlyFans. You got to do what you got to do to support the local economy. Braxton Huggins asks, do you think organizations will be more receptive to explore new technology over the next few months as they have more time and are looking for ways to save? This actually, we got some really good guests on the show for this question, because Rob, you guys at Donovan Ventures, you have interest in both tech companies and EMPs, so you can speak on that. Yusuf, actually you and Ryan over at Pump Jack Power, you guys have done deals. So Rob, let's start with you, man. What do you think? Are EMPs going to be more receptive to new tech and look for ways to become more efficient?
Yeah, no, I think that guys that are able to really show management teams that they can save them money and time, especially from a field operations and optimization standpoint, will likely win in this battle. Just because today, like kind of to use this point, shale is a higher cost environment where you have to be able to produce for as little amount of OpEx as possible. But I think the one governing factor, though, is there's still a management style from the older generations that are really not receptive to technology. And I think this is literally their last hurrah, likely in the industry. So as those guys shift out, and then more of the younger guys like our generation and people a little bit older than us will really move into management positions to utilize more technology. But yeah, no, in low cost environments, technology is huge.
Yeah, Yusuf, from your point of view, I don't think you're like super big on technology. That's not your style. But what do you?
You know what? It's not, man. I gotta say, Robert, I love you, dog. I know, but I don't agree. I definitely don't agree. I think right now it's gonna kind of come to, it's almost, it's a like we gotta be Neanderthals, right? Like it comes down to, literally getting a stick and beating your opponent over a head right now, because, these type of prices, I would agree at $30, at maybe $35, I would agree with you. Technology kind of is still king, and you can still kind of make something out of it. However, at these prices right now, there's going to be people that are, there's not going to be people. There are people right now that are bleeding. They're bleeding out of their neck. You can't stop the bleeding. If you talk to any private equity firm right now that has any basis in oil, any financial advisory company, any bank, anybody who has anything in oil right now, they will tell you that no. We will happily accept anybody that's willing to cut prices, that's willing to do whatever it takes, really, right? And technology isn't a part of that. I love technology, right? I'm a fucking millennial like everybody on this conversation. Technology is great. I love Instagram. It's great. It's fantastic. But at the end of the day, I'm still an oil man, and as an oil man who has a oil company, who has a lot of conventional wells and a lot of unconventional wells, no fucking chance am I relying on technology. I'm gonna rely on kill to eat. That's what I tell everybody in our office. If you kill, you eat. If you don't kill, you do not eat. I know it's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but that's kind of the way we're looking at things right now.
Yeah, there's another question that kind of adds on to this. Sharik asks, wouldn't the cash crunch perhaps create added reluctance to investing in new technology and research and development? One thing I was going to kind of piggyback on with what you said, Yusuf, was theoretically, it makes sense that E&Ps would turn to new technology to gain efficiency during a hard time, but also these guys are just bleeding out too, right? So how do you have time to implement new technology when you're spending 24 hours of your day putting out fires and just trying to fucking survive until the next day? So kind of, it's catch-22. Like, yeah, we have technologies that can help drive efficiency and save costs, but at the same time, these guys are looking to make it until next week, so they don't really necessarily.
I see absolutely both points of views. Obviously, our well operation in Oklahoma wasn't anything nearly as robust as Yusuf's, but at the same time, you've also got to think about how many of these tech companies are actually going to be around, 3, 6, 12 months from now. And I hate to say that because I love our ecosystem and I love a lot of the companies that operate in the space. But it's a very real thing if, a lot of the cash flow dries up for these companies. And we've even seen today where certain banks are closing lines of credit, people aren't able to pay people, the organizations go under. So as an E&P, if you go and invest in a bunch of technology, not just monetarily, but also with your time, what happens when these companies go under? Then it's negative ROI for you. So I see both sides of it. Yeah,
Josh Pollard commented that Whiting was going to invest in technology, but gave C-level $3 million. So if anyone from the exec team of Whiting's watching this, fuck you guys. That's just ridiculous. If you haven't seen, Google Whiting exec bonus. They paid out $14.6 million to the C-suite just days before filing for bankruptcy. So I know you guys probably don't want to comment on that. We don't have to talk about that much.
No, I want to talk about that. Fuck those motherfuckers. That's bullshit. I mean, honestly, right now we are literally in a market where they're scrambling to fucking buy groceries, and a guy's like, hey, by the way, I'm just going to take a $7 million bonus. No, dude. No
fucking spine, man. No spine. How do you do that? You have people that are struggling to pay their rent, their mortgage, put food on the table for their family, and days before filing for bankruptcy, you take, I think Holly, the CEO, took something like $6 or $7 million out of that bonus. Like, not down with it.
It really just goes to show you guys, honesty goes a long way. And then it honestly is a hard conversation to have. A lot of people can't have it. A lot of these big companies preach integrity and loyalty, and then they send you a memo on Monday and saying, hey, everyone's laid off. But if you open up an honest forum and have an honest conversation, a lot of it can be done. What would have happened if 6 months ago said, hey guys, this is our real estate, this is where we're at, and this is what you're facing.
Yeah.
What would that have done? So
it's really reminiscent too. If you look back at the 08-09 financial crisis on the real estate side, it's very reminiscent of those guys like Lehman. The bonuses that they took pre-bankruptcy were massive, and AIG, the bonuses they got with bailout money were large as well. So it's a shame.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Jake, I saw you pull up a comment that said, "I take down Colin easily." Someone's in the chat.
Yeah, no, anybody could do that.
Yusuf, do you think KP could take me down?
Yeah, I think he could. KP, I don't know you, but I definitely think, honestly, the fact that KP doesn't have a picture, I don't know, KP. I don't know if I trust you. I could take Colin down. So I could take Colin down. Anybody could take Colin down.
KP, he also asked, who are these guys?
Watch out.
I'm late to the chat, so if you just joined in the chat, I'll give you a recap real quick. Yusuf over here is Executive Vice President of Atlas Operating. Ryan Nuckolls is with Pump Jack Power, and Rob Smith is with Donovan Ventures. So got you guys caught up on that. So let's go back up here on the questions a little bit. Ben Martin asked thoughts on the cuts possibly coming from foreign oil. This is a good question. Do you guys think that Saudi and Russia end up coming to the table, coming to an agreement? What's everyone's thoughts on that? I mean, I'll kind of put in my 2 cents. The past couple of years, I've wondered why hasn't Saudi killed us? What they're pricing for? They obviously can produce oil much cheaper than us on a marginal cost basis. It's kind of like
can I call in? Can I say something? Can I jump in?
You can say something.
Okay, so as the resident brown guy here, I feel like I know what the Saudis are thinking. I'm not a fucking Saudi or anything, And if anybody from the Saudi is listening, honestly, I mean, come find me. I'll just fucking send you Colin's way. He'll whoop your ass. And but honestly, dude, their operating expenses are so low. They need about $5 to $6 of oil to operate, right? Like that's what their operational expenses are, and that's what the big thing that's a big threat to us and everybody else is, right? But if you think about it, the fucking Saudi kingdom, to keep it alive, do you know what it takes? I mean, they got fucking gold toilets. Those motherfuckers got gold toilets. No, you can't have $3 of oil. You can't have $5 of oil. You can't have $35 of oil. You need at minimum $50 of oil to make money and to prosper, right? So I think, even if you look at oil prices today, the last time I checked it was around 3:30 or 4 p.m. We're up. It was $4 at that point because Donald Trump is saying that, hey, listen, you know what? We're going to cut production. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And now all of a sudden prices jump up $5. I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence.
Yeah, you brought up a good point. They're already starting to dip into their sovereign wealth fund, and it even complicates things even more ever since they went public. And the interesting thing is, I think it was like 50% of the Saudi nationals actually invested in the IPO. And so this is going to be a test to see. They are actually supposed to pay the dividends to their shareholders first and foremost before the kingdom actually takes their cut. And so we're coming up on, I think, in about 2 months, if they actually pay the kingdom before actually paying the dividends that were promised, it's going to show that that this IPO is really not a traditional IPO, and that their loyalties still lie to themselves and the kingdom before shareholders.
Gonna take the shell playbook.
Jake.
Take the shell playbook. Fuck shareholders.
A lot of people really don't understand exactly what happened in the last 2.5, 3 months. So essentially, you had Russia and Saudi Arabia kind of neck and neck, right? Saudi Arabia kind of fell behind it in terms of supply, all right? And Russia comes back and says, hey, we're going to increase supply, right? Doesn't even do it. Saudi Arabia comes back all pissed off, and then now they're coming out 12 million barrels a day. That's the mark. What's so interesting about it is with coronavirus and with everything, it's like we've just shot ourselves in the foot. I mean, it's just like, guys, we just have to call a spade and just say what it is, because what you guys just did if you didn't do what you just did in the last 30, 60, 90 days, I don't think oil would be where it is today. If they would just kind of just stay quiet as well, just keep riding things out, keep working things out, I don't think you would have seen the price. I don't think you would have seen it glut in the market. I mean, Robert, you can test this, kind of see your own economic viewpoint on that. I think it would have a little been a status quo. We would have seen some suppressed prices. But this just absolute downfall of the market. I mean, guys, Colin, I texted you this yesterday. Shell North America just announced that no more all crude purchasing contracts May 1st suspended. It's going to be a callback basis. So this continues, and people physically cannot take their oil to market. There's no cash flow. There's zero cash flow for companies. And what Yusuf was saying earlier, that's going to start at the small level. Because the oil companies who rely on trucks to come pick up for oil, good luck.
Yeah, that brings up.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that brings up a talking point. And Jake actually put up this question at the 6:28 mark from RG. I'm a noob to oil and gas, but I'm very interested in what's going on and the impact of global markets. Explanation for what the best and worst case scenario is for short and long term. Shout out to Jake.
What's up, Arjit?
So what?
Arjit, what to do, baby?
I was talking to Jake about this earlier. Today was, I think yesterday I'd posted on my Facebook that we're at $10 spot price on WTI out in West Texas, and everyone was responding to me. I'm seeing $20. I'm seeing $20, and like, yeah, you're seeing $20 settle price in Cushing, but I don't think a lot of people understand that there's a differential pricing based on location and quality, right? And it's I don't know where I was going with that. Anyways, but let's talk about this though. Is in the next 6 months, let's talk about a best case scenario in y'all's mind to answer this question. You know, where do you see oil prices being in 6 months on a best case scenario? Let's say that Saudi and Russia come back to the table. Let's say that COVID-19 ends up peaking here in 2 months and things return back to semi-normal. I mean, what do you see as a ceiling on WTI? Are we looking at $30 oil for the long term? Are we looking on back 40, 50? Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, no, this year, I mean, I think oil probably taps out around 35 or 40 bucks towards the end of the year, pending kind of Saudi and Russia getting their stuff together. Long term, though, the outlook is extremely bullish. Supply in the U.S. is rolling over extremely quickly. You look at kind of base production declines are about 4 million barrels a day. That's a lot of oil that you need to bring online to just produce at the same level you're producing at right now, not have any incremental growth. And then you look at all the kind of underinvestment from a deep water conventional side, a big conventional side in the Middle East, and then deep water offshore in Brazil. Those big projects are not coming online quickly, and investment has been pulled back big time. So that's going to create a big supply crunch down the road, say 5 to 6 years out there. So near term, there's going to be a ton of pain. $35 to $40 oil is probably the norm, but then 5 to 6 years out, it wouldn't be past, or it's likely that you could see kind of $80 to $100+ oil.
I think the thing that people need to understand with the price of oil, I mean, guys, there could be a year from now, there could be a war, certain means shut down, and 1/4 of the world's oil supply is locked up. And so to say $80 and $100 oil, that's absolutely possible. 35, 40 is absolutely possible this year, but it's very possible we could still, stay in the $15 to $20 range. Everything is just so up in the air right now, and I think that's why, in our 200-year history of this awesome country, we have never had an energy plant ever. And God rest his soul, Boone Pickens, who's probably rolling over in his grave right now, is saying, I have been fighting this exact topic that we were talking about today in the last 20 years of my life. There has got to be a North American energy alliance. 30 million barrels a day of oil are controlled by OPEC, right? There's too much price volatility in the market. We've got to come together and we've got to take a bigger control of the market. And I hope our energy department, what's crazy about the energy decisions in America, everything is so compartmentalized. There's not one person who makes the energy decisions for America. Well, you want to go build a pipeline, go talk to the Commerce Department. You want to go export oil, go talk to the Department of Energy. So there's really got to be fundamental change in government of how we steer our energy policy.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and we talked about this in the last live stream. Is should American oil be, should we have a cartel? And it's hard to kind of argue against it in my mind. I think like Trump talking about he's going to make American producers cut back production. How the fuck are you going to make anyone cut back production? You have no control. Yeah. And no company's going to do that on their own. So, I don't know, man. We got Trump leading us, though, so we'll get out of this, right?
Huge.
Oh, hey, shout out to Andy, bad boy. I see you, man. One of my good buddies over on Energy FinTwit. I saw a really good question here from Austin Newsom. Any thoughts on credit availability to the industry? Robert and Yusuf, I think you guys can probably speak to this one pretty in depth. Are you guys seeing credit lines disappear? I think one interesting topic is RBLs. I had some investment banker talking to me the other day. He's like, oh, banks don't have a lot of risk exposure to the industry. RBLs are backed by securities, by the asset. And I disagree with him. I think RBLs are very much at risk. What do you guys think? What are you seeing in your conversations with banks?
I'll go first.
Robert, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, dude, it's bad. RBLs are getting slashed. When you look at, we've been talking to a lot of the banks recently, and the first comment that most of the bankers say to me is that, well, we really don't know what we have in our portfolio because strip price is moving around 20% every couple of days. So come back to us in a couple of weeks and we'll be able to tell you what our portfolio looks like. But everyone's going through redeterminations right now, and it's just not good. I mean, you see borrowing bases will probably get slashed 30 to 40% easily. Hopefully the guys that have not drawn most of the borrowing base will not have to have the equity cure component. But guys that have fully drawn their borrowing bases are screwed. I mean, you're going to see those guys have either bankruptcy or some type of restructuring have to go through. But credit is not available almost at all.
Okay, so I'm gonna say what Robert was trying to say in a not nice way. Banks are telling everybody in the oil and gas space to fuck off. That's exactly what they're telling us, and everybody that's doing anything in oil and gas, that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying that, hey, listen, we don't want anything to do with you. We don't want your PDP, we don't want your PDNP, and for God's sake,
We don't want any of your acronyms.
we don't want your PUDs.
What's a PUD?
That's the truth.
They don't even know what a PUD is anymore.
Yeah, don't stop PUD.
I heard
Prove it on drilling rules.
I heard this story the other day, and this is before coronavirus. This is before pricing war. Private equity-backed operator has 2 liens on an asset. First lien was $80 million. Second lien was $160 million, and defaulted on the second lien. It goes to auction. Auctioneer starts the auction off at $5 million. Gets no bidders. Drops down to $1 million. Gets a bid up to 2, up to 3. Auction clears at $3 million, and those bankers, they said their face was just glazed over. Took $157 million loss on that, and I mean that was pre-pricing war, coronavirus. I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath. And I think I tweeted a few weeks back when the first rumor of a bailout for shale companies started happening, and my tweet was, E&Ps aren't getting bailed out, it's the banks that are getting bailed out. And I had some pushback from some people like, oh, banks don't have that much exposure. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you smoking? Like, I don't have access to a Bloomberg terminal, so I can't tell you exact numbers, but just having some common sense, like I know these banks have decent exposure to upstream assets.
So Yusuf, this is probably a question to you. Companies with strong balance sheets. How are you looking at? Are you looking at any assets for any operators coming out of bankruptcy?
So
either through the bank or directly through them.
So we are looking at assets from everybody right now, right? Like we are in a very, very good position to be making acquisitions for the next, I would say, 6 to 8 months, because you know what, we are pretty liquid and we are pretty excited about kind of what's happening to some of these smaller oil and gas clients. However, going through the banks, right? And like if you go through the banks, you have to pass the litmus test, right? If you don't pass the litmus test, they're never going to talk to you, right? I mean, when it comes to banks, we bank with about 4 banks right now, and they're all major banks, and they're all looking at what is a liquid, like how much liquid assets do you really have, right? They don't care about your PDP. If your PDP is worth $1 billion, they could give a shit right now, because your $1 billion PDP is actually worth about 300 million, right? So
Zero.
They care about what do you actually have in the bank account, what does your treasury deposits look like, and how can you actually close on a deal, right? Like let's say, I think I was talking to one bank, I'm not going to say the bank's name, but I know this for a fact because they told us this, is that they had around $2 billion worth of oil and gas energy debt. They've decided that about 80% of that is bad debt, and they're going to default the notes, and they're going to hope for the best. And after they hope for the best, they're going to actually try to leave the oil and gas industry. So the guys who have been in the industry for a long time, who have trusted this bank, what are they supposed to do, right? Like, are they supposed to just say, hey, you know what, we're done and we're finished and we're not going to deal with this bank anymore? Or are they supposed to say, you know, we're going to keep on fighting and we're going to keep on going, and we're going to keep on doing this, or we're going to do that, and we're going to, you know, reduce OPEX and reduce CAPEX, and we're going to do a million different things. But at the end of the day, what's happened is that these companies that had a large line of credit who had, you know, extensive drilling plans, who had extensive workover plans, extensive whatever plans they had, they're gone. It doesn't exist. Like, they can't do it. They literally can't do it. If they keep doing it, they will not exist in 6 months. So I think there is a great opportunity for people who are, frankly, they're liquid or have little debt or work out to find a way to get little debt and you know, make something happen out of you know, a bad situation.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, you talk about these E&Ps talking about they're going to cut OpEx, cut CapEx. Rob, you know, you've seen this on Twitter. We've had lots of threads and conversations talking about E&Ps doing 20 to 25% cuts on oilfield services across the board. And a lot of people think that OFS has the margin to be able to do this. Like, for some reason in people's head, they think since 2016 that OFS has recovered and that their pricing has enough cushion to be able to cut 20 to 25%. And these guys are bottomed out. They don't have any wiggle room to cut the price of their service. And so, you know, it's kind of insane to hear these E&Ps, you know, their first move, which always their first move is go to the service companies and cut, but there's just no wiggle room left there. And I'm sure you guys are seeing this, Rob, with some of your service companies.
Yeah, everyone I mean, I got into it, not an argument on Twitter, but a long thread where they were talking about, someone said that the service companies, whenever oil spiked in 2018, they were able to get back all of their margins they lost in the 14-15 downturn, which, yeah, they did get back a decent amount. But from mid-2018 to the end of 2018, you had a giant price collapse going from $65, $70 oil to $40 within a matter of 90 days, roughly. They washed out all of the margin at that point. So OFS guys have been operating at razor-thin margins since then. Like, pressure pumpers, for example, are putting out fleets at daily field labor cost. So they're not making, one, money at the field level, two, they're not making money at corporate margins whatsoever. So yeah, there is no margin for OFS companies to make any money.
I mean, that's crazy. They're not even covering marginal costs. I mean, just the field, field level, right? So how long can you operate like that? You know,
not long.
Yeah, a couple months. Yeah, that's interesting to see. You know, I come from oilfield service background, and I think some guy was on, I think it was on Twitter. He's like, "Oh, they're just asking for a 20% discount off the ticket. That's normal." And I'm like, "No, dude, they're asking, like, I don't know, some people drive me crazy."
Yeah, they just didn't understand.
Yeah, you know, OFS is a terrible business to be in for the last 5 years or so. I know some people that have done well with it, but you just look at like these pressure pumping fleets, man, they're commoditized, and there's literally no advantage or edge to get over. You know, I saw a CUD coiled tubing unit broke down in the middle of 59, right in the middle lane highway rush hour traffic. And dude, CUD used to be the top of coiled tubing and pressure pumping. I mean, just fucking legit company. I mean, even their shit's breaking down on the highways, because how are you supposed to service your equipment and take care of your stuff when you're operating at razor thin margin and you're literally running all this equipment into the ground, and it's just terrible business right now.
So Yusuf, you guys, I know back in the day, you guys had, I don't know, like 4 or 5 of your own rigs. I think you had like your own, you guys had a bunch of your own stuff vertically integrated within the company. Is that something you guys are going to look at more of in the future, or nah?
So we have 13 rigs across the company, which is across the lower 48 right now. And Jake, if I'm being honest, we've shut down pretty much about 12 of them. So we have 1 rig running right now, and that rig is running to make sure that we are taking care of all regulatory issues and stuff like that, stuff that's mandated by the state. It's not about making money at this point. Frankly, for us, it's about how do we integrate everything that we've been doing and take it inside and, I mean, just survive, right? Like, if I had to say what we're doing right now, it's surviving. Like, that is the main discussion that we're having is how do we survive this shit that's happening between coronavirus, between the market crash, between everything that's happening right now, between an election year, how do we survive this, right? It's all just survival, right? So between that survival mode, we went from 13 rigs that were running across 6 different states to 1 rig that's running just to make sure that we're taking care of regulatory issues.
And I think, guys, the only way the OFS companies will survive is, like I've said countless times in this discussion, you got to have an honest conversation with your customers. And if they look at you and say, hey, I need you to slash 30 and 40%,
yeah.
I mean, as much as it is to lose the customer, you can't do it. It's like, I'm not going to operate at a loss. You know, I remember when I first graduated LSU, I was running our saltwater disposal business down in Eagleford, and this was right after the price crash of 14. And I had a large operator look at me and, hey, you know, I need you to take water free for 6 months. Like, I'm not gonna take business at a loss. And sadly, these OFS companies are in that position. You know, take your good clients, stick with them, you know, ride through the tough times. And the ones that are trying to break you at the knees, you know, you have to make the tough decisions to drop certain clients. The biggest thing is with the OFS companies, it's like we can't keep just cutting staff and expecting people to come back during the downturns and keep quality of service. And that's my biggest thing is all this rollover. You know, you can't, all these field hands that have been around since the 70s and 80s and, you know, OG Billy Bob who knows how to roll pipe like this, those guys are about to die in the next 10, 15 years. And if we don't have people that are trained to lead this industry, we're fucked.
Yeah. I mean, it's why we're in the situation we're in now with the great crew change, right? I mean, there's the entire missing generation in oil and gas between millennials like us and the boomers. So you may see a repeat of that. We got a conversation going on in the comments. RHD Steve said, I've heard the deal is almost done and oil prices will be going back up soon. A&D Bad Boy said, hate to say it, man, but you're wrong. Too much demand destruction. Now we're looking at 30 to 35 million barrels per day in demand. This is so when I was talking to one of the old school cats the other day, I was just like, man, you know, how does this relate to the 80s? And he said it doesn't, because while you had oversupply in the 80s, you didn't just have, I mean, demand wasn't just absolutely crushed in the 80s, right? It wasn't a demand issue, it was just oversupply. And, you know, one of you guys said, I'm tired of hearing about we're going into unprecedented or uncharted waters. But it's true, because there's nothing to look back on and say, man, it's just demand. The bottom absolutely fell out. So, you know, I don't know. I'm not a macro economist. I don't know how this will affect, even if they get to a price or a production settlement. You know, the demand's not there.
Yeah, I would just say to that guy that I would fade the bounce hard.
Got to fade it for sure. Josh had a comment. Tekashi 6ix9ine gave Trump the dirt on Saudis, so that's why. What do you say? Oh, that's why they will cave. I heard Tekashi 6ix9ine. Did you guys hear that Tekashi 6ix9ine got released out of prison due to COVID? I saw it today while I was driving. Dude, look, I'm a big Tekashi 6ix9ine fan, so I've been missing him for the last year while he's locked up. Instagram's been quiet.
Colin's missed that trollness. He's missed the king troll.
Tekashi 6ix9ine?
Dude. You don't know Tekashi 6ix9ine?
I don't even know who the fuck that is.
I thought we were friends, man, and you just don't.
The
reason me and Tekashi 6ix9ine, like I've got like this bond with him, is because our level of pettiness and trolling people online is on par. So, that's why I got respect for him.
Okay, that's good. At least you got that. All right, good.
All right, guys. Well, we're coming up on an hour here, so I'm gonna cut it off. Yusuf, Ryan, Robert, appreciate you guys coming on. Definitely want you to come back. Enjoy doing these live streams, shooting the shit. Got to do them more often, man.
Thanks, guys.
This is a lot of fun. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Fun times, man. Fun times.
All right, later, man.
Cheers, boys.
See you guys.
Yeah.